order to deter the supply line going south out of Nashville. Now, Nashville is the major supply line for the federal forces. That's where all the supplies are going in there and then being distributed out. So the rail lines were the most important thing during that time period. So it was up to me at that time period to go in and tear up as much as I possibly could. Now there's only one little problem. I wasn't able to complete my mission. I did a little bit of damage on that rail line, but they were too hot and heavy on my tail. So I came back over into the West Tennessee area, went up into the Paris landing area, and now we're getting into October, okay? October, I'm up around the Paris landing area with my troops, my cavalry and my artillery that was with me at that particular time. We were actually able to take over 4 of the gunboats or supply boats carrying barges of supplies coming up the Tennessee River. So we were able to take 2 of those boats out, and I was able to capture the other 2 boats. Now I was able to take the supplies off of one of those boats, well the 2 boats, we were able to take most of those supplies off. And we had shoes, we had blankets, we had hardtack, we had all types of supplies that we could take off of those boats. I actually took the other 2 boats and manned those boats with my own cavalry. Now these men have never worked a steamboat before, but I had my own navy at that point in time. I was actually commanding my own navy. I put the guns on those boats. I even put some of the supplies that I had captured on those boats. And we were on our way to Johnsonville. That was my focus at that point, was to come to Johnsonville and destroy this depot that's just on the other side of the river here. So, of course, this time of the year, it's a rainy time of the year. It's raining. The roads are muddy. I'm having a hard time getting my troops up to Johnsonville. At the same time, my men on the shore are looking over at the 2 boats with my navy. My navy was jeering my troops over on the shoreline, telling them how nice it was to be able to ride instead of trudging through the mud and the rain and having such a hard time on their part. Only to find out telegraphs had started going down the river, up the river to Johnsonville and up to Paris, where Union gunboats started coming in. And my navy of 2 boats ended up getting captured in between the gunboats. So my men evacuated their boats and actually floated to the opposite side of the river. They had to lay low all night long in order to get back over to me on the west side of the river. So those next days, on up to November 4th, we come on down to Johnsonville and set up all along this area right in here where we're at right now, all the way up to Pilot Knob. And if you go up into the fort area up there, or the park area up there, you will see those types of areas up in there. So I was able to set up my batteries much like this right here. And at 2 o'clock on November 4th, I started bombarding with all of my batteries over in Johnsonville. By that evening in November 4th, I was actually able to leave this area and make my way down to Perryville. I was actually able to see from the light of the fires that were burning, from the massive fires that were being happening over here in Johnsonville. Ordinances were going off. cotton was being burned. All the supplies in the Johnsonville area right across the river here was completely destroyed. So at that point in time, none of those supplies could get to Nashville. Now, did I have a complete impact on the war at that point? I'm afraid to say I did not. It was almost too little, too late at that point in the time. But I did get away with my troops, get to cross over and get back down into the Mississippi area at that point in time. That just gives you a brief overview of what I did during that time period. To be able to read books, John Wife has a great book out. That was the first book actually put out about myself. And you can also read the book that I had something to do with, is the campaigns of Naked Bedford Forrest. So these are two books that you can read. You can also read a book that John Morton put out back in the late 1800s. He wrote a book about himself and of course how he came in to be with myself during the Civil War. And that's a story all in itself there. So there's all types of books to read during that time period that are basically in the beginning of the Civil War. And it really hasn't been written and rewritten by other authors over time. As you study these books, you'll see that a lot of the later authors have gone back to White's book in a lot of the earlier books of the time period and referencing a lot of their references and things of that nature. So, any questions?
Who was the last individual you mentioned, John?
John Morton. As a matter of fact, John Morton was with Forrest here at Johnsonville. John Morton and his bullpups. And that was the nickname that Forrest gave to this young John Morton.